Ethiopian Survival and Salvation Association (ESSA). The non-profit organization, Civil Society of Ethiopia, is legally registered in the United States. June 23, 2023. Short and long-term solutions to the Ethiopian current crisis. 2. Samantha Power, Administrator of the United States Agency for International Development. Dear Ms. Power, we are writing to bring your attention to a serious issue regarding the Ethiopian government's theft and embezzlement of international food aid. In addition to the OLF/PP-led government, 40% of the theft is done by the Eritrean government, TPLF, in Ethiopia and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. This unethical and corrupt behavior has hindered support from reaching those who desperately require it. We strongly urge the United Nations to investigate this severe international crime immediately. In addition to this, Ethiopia is currently facing a dire crisis. The ongoing conflict between Tigray and Amhara, worsened by the federal government's removal of responsibility for peace, has caused a no war and no peace situation. This has resulted in rising tensions between the two regions, and the federal government's demand for the Amhara people to subdue is only causing more tension. Meanwhile, people are being savagely killed and displaced due to ethnic profiling in Wolaga and Addis Ababa. The federal government has failed to protect its citizens and is even facilitating their displacement, while also blocking free movement towards and away from Addis Ababa and other parts of the country. Furthermore, Ethiopia is facing its sixth consecutive failed rainy season, which could prolong an already devastating drought affecting over 30 million people. At the same time, various conflicts across the country are making it difficult for humanitarian organizations to reach people in need of critical support. Unless aid is immediately increased and seasonal rains improve, the situation could become catastrophic, and people could start to starve to death each day. We appreciate the efforts of USAID under your leadership and the international organizations such as the WFP in providing much-needed aid to Ethiopia. However, the corrupted Ethiopian government, the Eritrean government in Ethiopia, and the corrupt TPLF made delivery of the aid difficult. Despite all these efforts by the international communities, the three greedy political fronts leading three governments are stealing and embezzling Ethiopia. We are concerned that the Ethiopian government does not have the morals and trust to deliver food to the starved people, since these three fronts have been practicing and participating in this massive food aid diversion practice for over 3 decades. Therefore, we kindly urge USAID to find alternative ways to reach targeted groups and provide much-needed aid. We have heard that the WFP will resume aid by mid-July by directly involving its crew to reach the people who need assistance. We urge you to take immediate action to stop the deteriorating economic and social situation in Ethiopia and ensure the country's continued existence. We believe that the Ethiopian government cannot be relied upon to deliver aid to the people, and we call on the international community to help stop this crisis. To this end, the Ethiopian Survival and Salvation Association (ESSA) has prepared an additional document, attached to this letter, proposing a long-term solution for democracy. ESSA calls upon all Ethiopians to establish a free and independent agent structure or system to limit the power of the Ethiopian government, end ethnic federalism and the fraudulent pseudo-constitution of TPLF/OLF, and conduct a swift national referendum to create a new constitution empowering the Ethiopian people. We also urge international communities, such as the UN, USA, AU, EU, and others, to support the process of conducting a new constitution referendum in Ethiopia to empower the people. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Sincerely, the Ethiopian Survival and Salvation Committee. Mekonnen Doyamo, the chairperson of ESSA. Contact doyamo1@gmail.com. Phone 61270228899. CC. Mr. Joe Biden, the President of the United States of America, and Vice President Kamala Harris. Mr. Antonio Guterres, the United Nations Secretariat General, New York. Ambassador Mike A., United States Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa. Sarah Charles, Assistant Administrator of USAID's Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance, BHAT. Robert O'Neill, Senior Desk Officer, Horn of Africa Senior International Cooperation Specialist. Nora Dempsey, Senior Advisor in the State Department's Office of Diplomacy. Honorable members of Congressmen and women and Senators of United States of America. House of Representative. Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House. The Congressional Hearing on Conflict in Ethiopia Committee. Representative Gregory Meeks, Chairperson of Foreign Affairs Committee. Representative Michael McCall, Ranking Member, Foreign Affairs Committee. Representative Chris Smith, U.S. Congressman and distinguished members of House Foreign Relations Committee. Representative Karen Bass, California, Ranking Member of African Affairs, Global Health, Global Human Right. Representative Chris Smith, Ranking Member. Representative Scott Perry, Pennsylvania. Representative Darrell Issa, California. Representative David Cicilline, Rhode Island. Representative Adam Daniel Kinzinger, Illinois. Representative Dina Titus, Nevada. Representative Tim Burchett, Tennessee. Representative Susan Wild, Pennsylvania. Representative Gregory Stube, Pennsylvania. Representative Dean Phillip, Minnesota. Representative August Pfluger, Texas, Ranking Member Subcommittee Europe, Energy and Environment. Representative Andy Levin, Michigan, Asia-Pacific Relations. Representative Joaquin Castro, Texas, International Development, International Organization and Global Social Impact Subcommittee. Representative Ronnie Jackson, Global Health and Human Rights Committee. Representative Ihan Omar, Minnesota, Vice Chair, African Affairs, Global Health and Global Human Right. Representative Young Kim, Asia-Pacific Nonproliferation. Representative Tom Malinowski, New Jersey. Representative Andy Kim, New Jersey. Representative Sarah Jacobs, California, Vice Chair, International Development. Representative Juan Vargas, California, Vice Chair of International Western Hemisphere, Civilian Security, Migration and Economic Policy. U.S. Senate. Senator Menendez, Chairman. Senator Rich, Ranking Member. Senator Kaito Trend. International aid organizations. The World Food Program, WFP. All the member states of the United Nations, New York. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations and the current Chairman of the UN Security Council. The United Nations Human Rights Higher Commissioner, Geneva. The Amnesty International, Human Rights Center, London and Geneva. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, Geneva. Abdullah Shahid, President of the United Nations General Assembly, New York. Mrs. Veronica Michelle Bachelet Giria, UN Higher Commissioner for Human Rights, Geneva, Switzerland. President Felix Antoine Tshisekedi, the Chairman of the African Union. Moussa Faki Mahamat, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Addis Ababa. Ms. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, Brussels. Mr. Sanjay Pradhan, Chief Executive Officer, Open Government Partnership, OGP, Washington, D.C. President of Pan-African. President of Congressional Black Caucus. Please continue to listen to the attachment. Call for Ethiopian Global Constitutional Convention. By the Ethiopian Survival and Salvation Association. ESSA. June 20, 2023. The Ethiopian Survival and Salvation Association, a non-profit civil society organization of Ethiopians, is legally registered in America, has called on global Ethiopian civil societies to end the ethnic federalism of the fraudulent pseudo-constitution of TPLF/OLF from 1995 through a national referendum for a new constitution. We are announcing the first Ethiopian Global Constitutional Convention for National Dialogue tentatively on August 17, 18, 19, and August 20, 2023, in Washington, D.C. Mission. Our mission is to empower the Ethiopian people to remain the ultimate force in their land. We aim to achieve a constitution that secures power for the people, protects their greatest asset, the people themselves, and safeguards the nation's sovereignty and its wealth. Together, we can ensure a prosperous future for Ethiopia. Vision. Ethiopia's vision is to be a welcoming country for humanity, anchored on God and His wisdom, embracing truth and justice, preserving knowledge and history, and promoting peace, human rights, and well-being for all. Background: Ethiopia and its citizens are facing a dire situation characterized by a lack of peace, stability, democracy, a legitimate constitution, accountable government, and independent institutions. The government has become tyrannical and implemented policies that disenfranchise people's rights. The following points showcase the current situation in Ethiopia. There is a lack of peace and stability in the country primarily due to greed and an ethnic/tribalist-oriented fraudulent pseudo-constitution written to rob people's basic rights. An arbitrary governance system. The government is not accountable, and independent institutions are not functioning properly. The government has implemented policies that disenfranchise people's rights. Despite the country's rich natural resources, including water, fertile soil, a good environment, and hard-working people, Ethiopians suffer from desperate poverty. Ethiopia lacks a comprehensive and strategic socio-economic development plan, including 5-year, 15-year, and at least 30-year plans, as well as specific work programs with adequate resources. People suffer from repeated internal conflicts, bloody civil wars, migration, high destruction atrocities, mass displacements, etc. Non-stop excessive corruption and greed of the government. Poor standards of education. Only 20% of the population lives in urban areas, while 80% live in rural areas. The current Ethiopian de facto government is burning Orthodox churches and demolishing mosques, inappropriately intervening in religious matters, and engaging in ethnic-centered demolitions of low-income and middle-income houses in the capital city of Addis Ababa. These actions have led to the displacement of at least 100,000 people internally, without any war or natural disaster, among other issues. In order to address the dire situation in Ethiopia, ESSA is calling for an Ethiopian Global Constitutional Convention. We believe that the root cause of all these crimes against citizens is the absence of a constitution that protects the people and the country. The convention would have the following objectives. Objectives. The goal is to elect 91 Ethiopians who have a proven track record of contributing to the well-being of Ethiopians and Ethiopia. These individuals must possess the knowledge, experience, talent, and willingness to assume responsibility for establishing a sovereign, independent institutional structure. They will also facilitate the establishment and voting for a referendum for a new constitution within 6 months. Once the referendum is voted on, the same team will be responsible for implementing the new constitution with the help of the UN and other peace-loving allies within 1 year. The road map. To reform Ethiopian democracy, we must first create a new constitution and hold a referendum to choose between the new and the existing constitution. This will legally eliminate or replace the existing constitution with a new one that will protect the sovereignty and enable establishment of the red line of the people that cannot be crossed by the government or any other entity. By creating lasting and independent institutional structures, we can establish boundaries between sovereignty and any entities we create. Sovereignty includes the Ethiopian people, the sovereign state of Ethiopia, the sovereign Ethiopian people's constitution, which includes a team of 91 independent agents that ensure its supreme role in governing the country, and finally the Ethiopian sovereign flag, which is tricolored green, yellow, and red, with no emblem in the center of the flag. Created entity includes the government of Ethiopia, the current Ethiopian government lawmakers or parliaments, and political parties of any kind. The Ethiopian team of 91 free and independent agents is authorized to establish lasting independent institutions that protect the people, the nation, and the constitution. These institutions will be based on the new constitution, which will be voted on with a referendum. With the help of the UN and other peace-loving countries, institutions, and people, the team will ensure the effective implementation of the new constitution. The new Ethiopian democracy will establish independent institutions that demarcate the red line border. These institutions will be established by the Ethiopian team of 91 free and independent agents, who are directly elected nationally by the Ethiopian people, and they will be part of the sovereign new Ethiopian constitution structure. The Ethiopian team of 91 free and independent agents has full authority to control the responsibility and accountability of the government, limit its power, investigate government manipulation, audit its looting of the country's wealth, prevent election fraud, ensure term limits are not exceeded by authorities, including the Ethiopian president, and oversee the implementation of a new constitution after the national referendum. The Ethiopian team of 91 free and independent agents oversees the training of new independent law enforcement police officers across 14 provinces. This new independent law enforcement is supported by UN peacekeepers, AU, USA, EU, and other international organizations. The Ethiopian team of 91 free and independent agents will closely monitor the final presidential election in accordance with the new constitution's one-person, one-vote principle, with support from UN peacekeepers, AU, USA, EU, and other international organizations. The Ethiopian team of 91 free and independent agents constitutes Constitutional Court Judges, 15. Federal Court Judges, 7. Election Commission Agents, 15. Audit Commission Agents, 15. Civil Service Commission Agents, 15. Human Rights Commission Agents, 15. Military Agents, 3. Intelligence Agents, 3. Police Service Agent, 1. Media Service Agent, 1. Socioeconomic Development Commission Agent, 1. The total number of independent agents becomes 91. These independent agents have significant duties. Empower the Ethiopian divided civil society into a united social norm of solidarity. Promote human rights by working with international communities and the UN, AU, USA, and EU. Help the Ethiopian people to discuss the available new constitution drafts in the first constitutional convention and promulgate it to the Ethiopian people nationally and globally for further discussion before making a national referendum for a new constitution. This team of 91 free and independent agents closely monitors, with the help of UN peacekeeping, AU, USA, and EU, the new constitution implementation completion successfully. This team of 91 free and independent agents works closely with our longest and oldest ally USA, to make Ethiopia a democratic country. This team of 91 free and independent agents works closely with the UN Election Assistance Department, EAD, the Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, DPPA, and United Nations Democracy Fund, UNDEF. This team of 91 free and independent agents encourages public participation in all Ethiopian community groups, reconciles and unites the Ethiopian people's ethnically divided communities abroad, brings into civilized and united Ethiopian society solidarity, and advocates for all to participate in the democratic constitution making. This team of 91 free and independent agents closely monitors national referendums for a new constitution process standard and voting ballot stations throughout 14 Ethiopian provinces with the UN, AU, USA, and EU to prevent election fraud. This team of 91 free and independent agents closely monitor, with the help of UN peacekeeping, AU, USA, and EU, including other international communities, the Ethiopian first democratic free, fair presidential election, one person and one vote principle after provincial and federal independent police training completion. Transitional justice in Ethiopia. Finally, this team of 91 free and independent agents will establish transitional justice courts in all 14 provinces and one international transitional justice court in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, cooperating with UN peacekeeping, AU, USA, and EU. This team of 91 free and independent agents closely monitors, with the help of UN peacekeeping, AU, USA, and EU, other international communities, ethnic genocides on Ethiopians, the Amhara people, the Ghetto people, the Tigray people, the Gorage people, the Gamo people, etc. Ongoing and systematic massacres are being committed by ethnic profiling primarily on Amhara people, including the burning of Orthodox churches and mosques. Please see the lists of massacres in Ethiopia. Through this referendum for a new constitution and independent agent system, the Ethiopian people can overcome the 32-year struggle to remove the fraudulent pseudo-constitution of TPLF/OLF from Ethiopia that was created in 1995. Ethiopian international and domestic transitional justice courts will hold accountable those responsible for sacrificing the lives of leaders, educators, and innocent citizens. For instance, Professor Asrat Wolais, a top Ethiopian medical surgeon, Dr. Ambachu Makonnen, Brigadier Generals Asamnatsij, Ser Mekonnen, and Brigadier General Gazayabra, as well as Engineer Sindnu Bekele, the chief engineer of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, were murdered. Additionally, 17 university girls have gone missing since 2020 with no resolution to their disappearance. These are just a few examples of the thousands of individuals who have been imprisoned, killed, or murdered under the Prime Minister Meles Zenawi and current Abiy Ahmed administrations. This does not even include the loss of life caused by wars instigated by these life-insensitive leaders, including Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki. At last, the Ethiopian people will prevail through the international and domestic transitional justice courts of Ethiopia. All horrible crimes made by the Ethiopian government support using apartheid TPLF/OLF constitution that has resulted in devastating crimes against humanity, including more than 6 million people displacement, around 2 million deaths, devastating civil war crimes, hunger, and childhood malnutrition in Ethiopia, especially in Tigray province and all other regions of Ethiopia. This structure of the team of independent agents is significant for our future generations' tranquility because it will become part of our sovereign constitution that ensures people's or citizens' power over the Ethiopian government's power and protect the interest of the people by establishing the red line of our democracy between sovereignty and created entity borders. Expected outcomes. Justice for all. All criminals will face justice in international and domestic transitional courts in Ethiopia. The people will triumph, and all the horrific crimes committed by the Ethiopian government using the apartheid TPLF/OLF pseudo-constitution will be brought to justice. These crimes have had devastating humanitarian consequences, including the displacement of over 6 million citizens, nearly 2 million deaths, civil war, famine, childhood stunting, and malnutrition. The victims are from various ethnic groups such as Amhara, Tigray, Oromo, Barina, Ghetto, Afar, Somali, Gorage, Gamo, Wolayita, Sidama, and other tribes and ethnicities. Justice must be served for all citizens throughout Ethiopia where innocent lives are brutally taken. The system, which has caused horrific crimes against humanity by using the TPLF/OLF constitution, must be uprooted. Future generations will not repeat the same mistakes. The structure of the team of independent agents is significant for the tranquility of our future generations. This structure will become part of our sovereign constitution, which ensures that the power of the Ethiopian government is checked by the people or citizens. It will also protect the interests of the people by establishing the red line of our democracy between sovereignty and created entity borders. Sustainable success, achieving spiritual, inner self, and material fulfillment. Looking towards the future, it's important for the next generation, both within and outside of Ethiopia, to embrace uniqueness and diversity and use them to make a positive impact on the world, particularly in Ethiopia. By striving for spiritual, inner self, and material fulfillment, we can achieve peace and sustainable success, just as our forefathers did. This fulfillment will make it easier for us to give to others in need and, in turn, create a better world for all. Let's focus on our strengths and work towards a brighter future for ourselves and those around us. The Ethiopian Survival and Salvation Committee. Mekonnen Doyamo, the chairperson of ESSA. Contact doyamo1@gmail.com. Phone 61270222899.